Hello and welcome to another Drive-In Double Feature. I'm Ryan,
I'm Nathan.
and this is the podcast where we talk about two movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before I get in everything, I'm going to read you a quote. Who said you should go over to watch or listen to the Drive-In Double Feature Patreon and listen to the new quote game we just dropped? Who said that quote? Was it me or Nathan? Find out who said it on last week's episode. But
One thing you'll
anyway,
learn is to never ask me that question.
oh, yeah. I mean, you did. You did what? Well, no
Don't spoil it.
spoilers.
Don't spoil
No
it.
spoilers. No spoilers at all. But if you want to hear Nathan playing a fun game over there between us friends, go check it over at patreon.com/drive and double feature podcast. But no games here, all business on the free content.
Yes.
So, but today we're going to be talking about 1984's Disconnected, and that is directed by Gorman Bechard. I guess you would classify this movie as like a psychological slasher type of movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, um, I mean, Gorman Bechard, he's a very unique director, I'll say. He's got some pretty out there stuff where he does like a lot of what you would expect from like this director, where he has like the like
Mm.
sexy sci-fi movies or whatever.
Yeah.
And but then he stops making movies for a while,
Hmm.
and becomes like actually like an author that like his books got optioned to make movies. I don't think any of them ever came to fruition, but they did say, I remember there was one called The Second Greatest Story about the sister of Jesus Christ coming back to coming to
It,
Earth. and
oh, it sounds
I,
interesting.
and I guess Winona Ryder was attached to play it at some point. But
Gotcha.
and anyway, and now he makes dog documentaries, which he calls dogumentaries.
Oh, creative.
Isn't it so? And I should say 90 senior documentaries. He's made at least two.
About senior dogs?
Yeah, old friends and seniors.
Okay. I mean, that sounds cute, I guess.
If you thought, man, I wish this guy would direct some dogs, well, here you go. Here's
I
some
thought I
options.
thought they were severely lacking in this one.
Yeah,
I don't
but
know if you're going to get into it. What was your reasoning for picking this? Did you know anything about this?
no reason. Also, I pulled a Nathan. I saw it on Letterbox. I was like, oh, that looks interesting, and then let's
Okay,
just do that.
cool, cool.
And luckily, it wasn't a musical movie with no plot or animals got harmed in any way.
Ah, darn.
and, uh, but yeah, like I said, it's a very, very, very low budget slasher
Yeah,
movie. I mean, this movie, it looks ancient, and it
yeah,
is. It is not. I mean, it's 1984, but I mean, my God, it looks like
yeah.
somebody shot it on their camcorder.
Yeah, you can see it immediately. Like as soon as it starts up, like it has like a shot panning the city. I was like, oh, holy crap, this is low budget. Like this is like we got some friends together. I got my mom's camera. Let's make a horror movie.
Yeah, and like I said, the sound is really bad in this movie. The quality of the video is not great either. But
Mm-hmm.
you know what? It's a horror movie.
Yeah, and I mean, I this is wild to hear. I did have to put on captions for this one. It was a caption. It was a captions needed movie.
You have to. I mean, there's some points where it's like they like talk over each other, and like
Yeah.
because the editing of this movie is awful. Like they they will cut in lines like on
Hmm.
top of like while other people are speaking, or it's
Yeah,
just like,
like it's a
and you
Robert Altman movie.
yeah, and I'm like, why? Like, man, it's really hard to like make out what they're saying. Like, but I
Hmm.
mean I mean, even the audio alone, like the sound mixing for this movie is just dreadful. It just sounds like everyone's just like, hey,
Yeah,
let's just go to the movie.
but like it does. It's. I guess in my eyes, it's a little more forgivable because you can tell that it was made just like very low budget.
That's what I was gonna. I mean, it sounds like I'm ragging on it, but it's forgivable because I mean, it's like it's obviously very low budget. They couldn't help it,
Hmm.
and that's they obviously they weren't dealing with like a big blockbuster budget movie here. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, this movie, it's a very odd movie. I'll say
Yeah.
it's very out there. I wasn't expecting it to be so outside of the box,
Mm-hmm.
but the movie starts with this one girl named Alicia, and she's in her apartment alone, where like this old man like wants to use her phone, and he comes into her house, and then he just leaves mysteriously. We don't know what he did or
Mm.
whatever. And now she's basically has like a freaked out telephone where it just does like this, it just plays these horrible screaming noises like
Yeah, it's like gurgling, piercing noises, and she just screams. She can't take it. And that's her life now. She gets a phone call. Sometimes it'll be a buddy, but then other times it's that. Actually, and then sometimes she'll get calls and she's hearing like other people's phone conversations too. That's a plot point at one point.
yeah, I mean, she starts finding things out about her relationships, because the like you start finding out is that she's dating this guy named Mike,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like oddly suspecting that Mike is having an affair with her sister, Barbara Ann.
Yeah, Barbara Ann,
And
who is played by her.
yeah, it's her twin sisters. So
Yeah.
it's Frances Sherman and a dual role here.
Yeah.
And
Wow. The
what an
original
amazing,
Eddie Murphy.
yeah, an amazing role here. And
Barbara Ann, pretty much the way they set it up, just wants everything that she wants. It's kind of
oh
like,
yeah,
oh, if you have a man, I'm sleeping with your man.
like polar opposite of her. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Alicia's like a very good down to earth girl, and like
Mm-hmm.
Barbara Ann is the scheming girl that like wants to steal her everything that she has.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't know, like it's so I really am trying hard to like explain the relationships between these people, but it's like the dialogue in this movie is so bizarre. Like it
Yeah.
does, like they like I said, they talk over each other, and it's like they're like weirdly, like I think she calls them out on having an affair at one point, and then they're like, "No, what are you talking about?" Like this,
Yeah, they
like
just
they
play it off.
and like because she has this, freaky telephone now. Like when she goes home, she can hear um her boyfriend and Barbara Ann talking on the phone, like talking about how they're gonna go hook up later.
Yeah, exactly. And like the way it's working with like the psychological elements of the phone is like, I guess for me, I was like, is that really happening? Is that a real conversation, or is literally all of this in her head? That's what the psychological part is, like these crazy noises coming through the phone. Is she just crazy? Like, what's the deal with this? Um,
Yeah,
but
and
it's so interesting because it's like two movies on top of each other. It's the
yeah,
psychological movie mixed with a slasher killer movie. It's like it's a combo that you've seen before, but this really feels like two movies, two different types of movies together.
I do have to give the movie some props, because it's like, on some level, I mean, because it's like I've never seen anything like this
Mm-hmm. No,
done before, where it's like there's a slasher like going around town, like there's a string of murders, and we find out who the killer is like pretty
mm-hmm,
early in the movie, so it's no secret that this
mm-hmm,
guy is a murderer. But um it, it's this is jumping way, way, way ahead, so spoilers. But yeah, the
mm-hmm.
the slasher gets kidnapped, but then these murders continue. So it's like you're like, huh, like what is
Exactly.
going? Like I was, that's like the one time I was like, in a very long time in a movie, I'm like, I do not know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you don't know where it's going to go. Yeah, because there's like what 25 more minutes. There's still like a third of the movie left once he's out, and the killers continue. And I agree. I was really intrigued by it. No, I mean, I thought, despite this movie's flaws, it was a great movie. I had a great time with this movie. It's not like technically sound, but like all around, I just thought it was a very interesting and intriguing watch.
Yeah, this movie's such an enigma to me,
It
and it's
really
just like
is.
and I'm like, it's like I don't know if I loved it or if I'm just so intrigued by it. Like I'm just
Yeah.
so like I'm so interested in it. It's like so it's like I don't I don't know if I'm like oh my god, I love
Hmm.
this movie, but I'm like I have to give the movie props. It's so interesting. It's like, oh man, I was not expecting this. But
I was gonna say, because like it kind of goes for like a romantic angle too, because obviously we have like this relationship between Alicia and Mike. It's falling apart, and there's a guy that was at the bar with them when they were hanging out that one night who like tracks her down at her video rental store because he overheard that she worked at one and went all around town to find her, and then just like doesn't even ask her on a date the first time, right? He's just like, oh, I kind of wanted to meet you, you were very pretty, and then like I think asks if he can grab her a meal, right?
well, yeah, that's the second time he shows up,
That's
and
right.
because
First time he's
the
just kind
first
of like, hi.
he's like, oh, I bet you watch all kinds of movies here, and then, like because they're talking about movies,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if you were, but I was like trying to see because it's so
Yeah.
grainy that I was trying to like, okay, I think there's scanners. I can see
Yeah,
scanners
I
up
saw I
there.
saw Alien on the wall. I was like, "There's
Yeah,
Alien." Yeah, I love doing that in these
yeah.
movies.
So because the video quality is so bad, like you can't see exactly what it says, but like I was
Mm-mm.
like, okay, I know that's scanners. I know that's I forget what else. I saw a bunch of other ones. I was just like, oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I recognize that one. But it was just funny to do that. But yeah, he like it's this guy. His name's Franklin,
Mm-hmm.
and he shows up and he's like, oh, I bet you watch all kinds of movies. And she's like, oh well, did you want to rent a movie? Like what kind of? She's like, do you have a VHS or a
Mm-hmm.
Betamax? And he's like, oh no, I don't have a video machine. And it's just like, and he's just like at the video store, and
Mm-hmm. No, I thought, yeah, it's just like, yep, I don't got anything, and he didn't seem like he planned on buying one or anything. And here's the thing: she's not really creeped out by it. This would be creepy, but the movie kind of plays it all right. I kind of after it, I was like, okay, I'm not feeling too odd on it.
well, I mean, he's very odd to
Yeah,
begin with.
yeah,
Like he is kind of acting like, I mean, not he acts like he's really socially awkward. Like in
yes,
my
yeah.
opinion, like he's not like to where that's like a giant red flags or whatever, but he's obviously like he just seems like, oh yeah, I'm just like this real shy,
Mm-hmm.
insecure person or whatever. But um yeah, he kind of like stalks her a little bit, like
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he keeps showing up to her like, oh yeah, like I followed you here, and then he comes back the next day and he's like, oh, I was just going out to get some food, did you want anything or whatever? And um she's like, yeah, why don't you grab me a Coke or whatever? And then this guy's like, he shows up, he's like, hey, what pornos do you got or whatever?
Yeah, yeah. Doesn't he? He's like, oh, I think you're in some of these, right, or something
And yeah,
like
he's like,
that.
you look good enough, you could be in some of these movies or whatever.
But she's like,
And
just like, I think it might be better if you leave.
yeah, well, because Franklin starts getting upset, like sticking up for her, and she's like, look, just go, just leave. And he and that the creep leaves. But um he does ask her out on a date, and she's kind of like, no, I don't want to do that. Like I'm with somebody, I'm with Mike. But then she hears that, like I said earlier, like she goes home, like because in the middle of these scenes she goes home and she keeps getting all these freaky phone calls, and
Mm-hmm.
the noises go off. And after that encounter, she does hear Mike and Barbara Ann like planning like a get together or hooking up later. And then she's like, you know what? Screw it. So she calls up Franklin, and it's like, oh, did you want to go date? And he's like, oh yeah, great. That sounds fun. And then as soon as he hangs up the phone, you see a dead girl that's been bludgeoned, like
And he like
stabbed to
cuddles
death.
with the dead
Yeah.
body.
He's like, oh, are you getting jealous, baby? Don't worry. She'll never do half the things that you let me do to you. Like,
Yeah, she's a good girl.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what's so like I really think there's like a kind of tenseness to it because he's the killer and he's murdering people, And it's like, oh, please don't sleep with him on the first date. Just give him a kiss goodnight and tell him to leave. Because they go on like a date and it seems like really nice for her. She has a good time and everything.
Yeah, like they go out on a date and he's like, oh, we should come over again. And she kisses him on the cheek or whatever, but it hasn't satiated his needs. So he
Mm-hmm.
has to go out, and he goes to another bar that same night
Mm-hmm.
and picks up another girl and then takes her home and has sex with her and murders her.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the death where her blood sprays on like the painting, right? Oh no, that's
That
later. That's later.
that's later. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, like so Franklin shows up and he kills this girl. And so, like, oh man, like things are about to start going down. And uh I think she talks to Franklin on the phone, and then Mike like just shows up, and
Mm-hmm.
then she's like, "Oh yeah, I had a great time. Like let's do it again." And then he's just like, "What the hell?" And he just like leaves.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Of course he walks in when she's talking on the phone. Classic
Yeah,
movie trope.
and I forget like how Barbara Ann knows about Franklin, but
I think don't they just run into each other or something?
I think so. Yeah, I'm trying to remember, but yeah, I think they do that. But eventually, uh, Alicia and Franklin do hook up and they have sex.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because he wakes up in the middle of the night and he grabs a knife and he
Mm-hmm.
like just lunges over at the pillow, but Alicia's gone already.
Yeah,
So she's
she
like,
left a
she
note
left
on
him
the
a note,
pillow.
left a note on the pillow, and was like, "Oh, you look so sweet sleeping. I didn't want to wake you." And it's just like I again, I just was not expecting that to
Yeah,
happen either.
it was a funny reveal. I liked it.
Like that,
Um,
you never see that where like the victim gets away.
no, no. Oh, and we got to talk about how Alicia is a huge film buff too in this. A lot of Hitchcock posters. Loves Bogey, as she
Oh
puts
yeah,
it. She's got a
she loves
Groucho Marx like
a
little
dummy.
figure. Yeah, kind
Or
of
no,
wild.
I think Groucho Marx pops up like a couple of like there's a
Yeah,
Groucho she's got a Groucho Marx thing, and I think he has a Groucho Marx like ventriloquist doll.
that's right. Yeah, they
Yeah,
both have Groucho things.
yeah. Well, the one of the trivia facts is apparently that was Gorman Bechard's apartment, so I guess that kind of makes sense. So they're just like,
Gotcha.
oh well, she's a film nerd now, so because of that, but she loves Bogey and Marilyn Monroe.
Yes, yeah. So that's like a huge talking point. Anytime they talk about movies in a movie, I'm already hooked.
Yeah, I'm just
Except
like,
except when they have bad opinions.
yeah, well, this
Wait,
movie's
well,
better
actually,
than Gentlemen Prefer Blondes on
and
this poster.
this pertains to the show, and it's a little bit out of it has nothing to do with this really, but I gotta bring it up. Is we watched Juno recently, and Juno in that movie says that Wizard of Gore is better than Suspiria. And I just thought of how much we hated Wizard of Gore when we talked about it on here. I just thought that was funny.
That's like Diablo Cody's opinion,
Oh,
probably. It's like,
yeah,
yeah, it's like,
that's her writing. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, oh yeah, that's obviously Wizards of Gore is better than this. Like, shut up. Like,
You're wrong.
yeah, I don't want to hear it. uh, that's funny.
Yeah.
I, but yeah, there's constant movie reference. She's talking about movie characters all the time,
Hmm.
um, but like I said, Franklin and Barbara Ann end up running into each other, and um, Franklin ends up taking Barbara Ann home. They have sex,
Hmm.
and he does what he does with all the other women. He kills her, and like you said, like her blood
Hmm.
just sprays onto this picture.
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually a really, really cool shot. Um, and we didn't talk. There's like a intercutting. It's not very important to the plot, but there's weird like documentary intercutting of the interview with the police guy who's on the
Oh
hunt.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird. He's like, "Oh, well, how are you searching for him?" But then it kind of got comedy too because the documentarian's like, "And why are you wearing that shirt?" And he's like wearing a Hawaiian
I,
shirt. It's really odd.
I'm like, that had to be ad-libbed, like right there.
Oh
And like,
yeah,
and
for
and,
sure.
and they're like, huh, that's funny. Keep in the movie. And
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of like really odd choices. Like I said, like again, like that's I'd never seen that in a movie.
Yeah, it has like this charm because of it. Like it just keeps it interesting. But I mean, it's soon after that that he gets caught. And he gets killed. Like he
Well,
actually
well, yeah. So what happens though is like Alicia goes over to
hmm
his house and she sees that her sister has been murdered.
hmm
And he's like, I can explain. I didn't kill those girls. I didn't kill those girls.
hmm
And and the police do not suspect Franklin at all,
Yeah.
but they just happen to be like walking outside of Franklin's
Uh-huh.
house, and
And
they're
aren't they
just
like, oh, let's interview that guy?
yeah, they're like they hear Alicia screaming. They're like, well, let's go inside, and then
hmm They shoot
and,
him.
but they don't even show that scene. I thought
Yeah.
they like I legitimately like I had to go back and rewind that because I was like did they like is there a scene because they talk about Franklin's dead. I'm like, wait, did I miss like
Yeah.
did I like
No,
look away and
no, you're right. They just don't show it.
they don't show they show the aftermath where it's like the police run inside and then the next scene is immediately cut to the police dropping Alicia off at home like, hey, sorry you had to go through all that, just
Yeah. And it's not wrapped up or anything. And like you don't get any closure to it because he says that he's not the killer. I mean, obviously he is, but as we find out very soon after, the murders continue on. So
well, yeah. Well, I mean, she shows up at her house like after going through this really traumatic event,
mhm,
and Mike is there,
yeah.
and Mike starts acting a little weird. He's like, well, now that Franklin and Barbara Ann are dead, like we have to take care of each other. And she's
Mhm,
like, get out of here, you freak, or whatever.
yeah.
Um and then but the most of this movie after that is her being tormented by this telephone.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's her
and
psychological break.
yeah, and I mean, it doesn't really get old because I mean, like I was like, this was like some really tense stuff, and I'm
No,
like,
I was sitting here and I was like, oh my God, like what's gonna happen? Because it ramps up and up. It does a good job of like it's very like at the beginning, it happens every so often, but then it's just like constant over and over. It's
yeah. Um. Oh, one line I forgot to say. It's a like there was like a scene where like the cops are eating sandwiches and they're talking about the murders and they're like,
yeah.
it's a shame these girls are dead. They can't eat any grinders anymore.
Yeah. I thought that was funny. Uh,
But she gets tormented by this phone this whole time, so she's just like,
yeah, she even changes her number to try to do that, and that doesn't fix anything.
right, and she just starts losing it to the point
Mhm.
where she calls Mike and basically just like basically like getting back with him just so that way she has somebody to like look after her. And like
Yeah,
I don't even think she necessarily wants to be with him. It's just
it's just
she
somebody, right?
she just needs somebody to help protect her. And
Hmm.
Mike is like, Mike was acting so weird. You're thinking, oh, maybe Mike has something to do with this or whatever. And
Yeah,
I, we don't know, I guess, technically. And
yeah.
he, you know, they hang out together. They start doing their, start acting like a couple again.
Hmm.
And Mike drops her off, one night, and then the phone again just starts acting like super crazy. It starts going erratic. It starts playing all these crazy sounds, and it's funny. Like she just, it's really funny because like she'll call somebody and they'll hang up, and then it starts ringing again, and like you already know, like, oh, it's gonna do that noise again, and it's like,
Yeah, and somehow they made it to where it's not really cheesy because you're describing it and like I feel like in a different movie that would be really cheesy, like a noise coming from the phone, but the noise is really gross in the way they cut it, and her acting's actually pretty solid from her being scared. It works really well, especially whenever she finally breaks down and she breaks the phone, like she's like on the ground busting it up and it's the sound still continues on.
Yeah, and the phone starts bleeding and everything too.
Yeah, it's
Eh,
insane.
uh, yeah, and I mean the movie is kind of left open ended, and
No,
because
nothing's explained to you.
they still, like I said, the murders are still continuing. That they say the radio like, oh, the murders are still going on, and Alicia
Hmm.
does end up dying at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Uh,
And then
and the same old man from the beginning of the movie just walks out of her apartment, and that's how it
yeah,
ends.
what an ending shot to the movie because it doesn't explain a damn thing. Just the old guy
No,
walks out, the camera shows him leaving, the end. Like you do not know what happened and there's no explanation. It makes me feel like a movie that I don't even know if there is a concrete answer to this movie. I'm sure the director has been asked at some point, but it's very I'm actually okay with that. I think like any explanation would kind of ruin it, and I feel like leaving it open does give it like keep that supernatural feeling to it.
yeah, I was when this movie started, I was super worried. And I'm like,
Mm,
oh man, like I just picked like a real big, like awful movie. And but I mean, as it's going on, like this movie is filmed in such a unique way. I mean, like even
mm,
like some of the shot, like even like the opening credits of this movie, and like later, it's like it's like these real static, like it's like real fast moving images of like this like little
mm-hmm.
like this doll face and like the clock ringing. It's really weird looking, and it's just. But like I said, I just was really interested the whole time. I did not know what was going to happen because most of the time when you watch these movies, or when you watch however many that you and I have watched, you can start like, okay, this is going to happen and this is going to
Yes.
happen.
Mm-hmm.
And but this one, it's like I legitimately did not know what was going to happen in every scene. I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know who's going to die. I don't know what's going to happen in this movie, or I assumed, it was going to be, Franklin or something like that was connected to the phone, but no, it was a total non sequitur. It didn't have anything to do with, like the overarching plot of this
No.
movie.
No, and I totally agree. It's just so it's like two movies that like they just complement each other rather than like we've seen a lot of movies where like we came out of them like, oh, that's like two movies that came together and just like two movies playing at once and they just didn't work. I think here they complement each other and make it more absurd, which makes it more interesting. It's I don't know. It's just entertaining, and you're right. That's definitely it. It's like I didn't know where it was going. I don't know what kind of movie I was getting, even when I moved into the next scene, and I think that just keeps it really interesting. I really super cool slasher movie from the '80s. It definitely stands out.
Yeah, and I mean, in this movie too, it has a really bad score on IMDb as
I
well.
saw that. I was like, wow, really? I was really honestly surprised by that.
It's got a 4.4 on
Yeah.
IMDb out of 10, and that's pretty low. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's because I mean, a lot of people would have to really dislike this movie for it to happen. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess maybe there is. I don't know, but I enjoyed it. I mean, like I
Mm-hmm.
said, I was totally unexpected movie. Was not ever bored at any point where I'm just like, like this movie is so interesting where it's like I don't know what's going to happen and I want to keep watching it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's a pretty big, not pretty big, I guess, but it's a really good recommend for me. I mean, it's like if you're looking for something that it's totally offbeat from the other horror movies you've seen, I would definitely check this one out.
No, I can only just repeat what you said because I totally agree. I think it's a fantastic movie. I say go check it out. Mhm.
Yes, absolutely. But that's going to do it for this week, Nathan. So, Nathan, what are we going to be talking about next week?
All right, well, Ryan, we are going to be talking about the Street Fighter from 1974, and that is going to be streaming over on Tubi.
Darn, I thought you were going to say the Street Fighter movie.
No, 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 no. I mean, if you want to do that, you can. No, we're talking about this Sonny Chiba movie.
Oh, well then, okay. Well, then I have to do this one then.
Okay, yeah.
So Nathan, we are going to be talking about 1993's Double Dragon.
It worked. Yes. Oh wow, what a double feature.
Yeah, and that one is streaming for free on Tubi as well.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to watch that one. I'm hoping to see my buddy Bimmy in that one.
Please, yes, he is. He's there.
Okay, good.
If you have any thoughts and opinions about this show, please send them on over to drive-in-double-feature-podcast@gmail.com. Send us your thoughts and opinion also at DIDFpod on X. And also check out the Patreon at patreon.com/drive-in-double-feature. But until next time.
Until next time.